Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to Build. I am your host, Ricky Camilleri, and our next guest has been described as the most successful magician in history. He's earned 11 Guinness World Records, has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, has 21 Emmys. He's a knighthood by the French government. He's sold more tickets than any solo entertainer in history and has been named a living legend by the Library of the U.S. Congress. He's kind of a big deal. Of course, I'm talking about David Copperfield, who is here to talk to us about his career, as well as the time he made the Statue of Liberty disappear, which is covered in the new documentary, Liberty, Mother of Exiles. But first, let's take a little look at Copperfield's career. Everybody, please welcome the great David Copperfield. Let's hear it. Thank you so much for being here.
It's good to be here.
First and foremost, what is it like watching that short clip of a lot of your work? Because you've been doing this now for 40 years, you know? That was a minute and a half, not even, of some of your hits. Do you just watch that and go, there's a lot missing?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm worn out just by watching that. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing because in my world, if I was a musician, you have a piano that's already invented, right? In magic, you have to invent the piano each time. You're inventing the technology for each time you do an illusion. Every single thing you do, you're really starting from scratch, especially when you're inventing new things, and you look at that material, it's like lots of trial and error and failure, and finally you get it to look beautiful. My idols were people like Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly and so forth, and it looks effortless, but behind it is so much hard work and so much effort. So, but hopefully it looks pleasing at the end of the day.
And also people who completely reinvented the art form for which they decided to focus their lives on. They didn't focus Fred Astaire didn't focus his life on dance and say, okay, I'm just going to be a great dancer. Yeah. He completely reinvented it and made it accessible to people who didn't know that they wanted dance in their lives.
Exactly. And magic is the same thing. When I came into magic was, not thought of as particularly special or whatever, and I wanted, I loved Broadway, I loved Sinatra, I loved Frank Capra, I loved, Orson Welles, and all the people that
You love stories.
I love stories. I love the fact that you can move an audience in some way, and I was good at magic, but I kind of sucked at everything else. But I wanted to use magic for what I really love to do, which was to share thoughts and emotions and everything that would happen in music. A musician tells stories of their life, a filmmaker tells stories of their life. I want to do the same thing with magic. And
I'm curious, when it comes to magic, what do you get more of a thrill out of? And this goes back to, you said, reinventing the piano. Oftentimes when you do a magic trick, for lack of a better word, or you do a show, if you're sawing yourself in half, you can go back to the original person who was sawing themselves in half, and you can sort of rework the idea and think of it in a different way. Or when you're making the Statue of Liberty disappear, that's a completely new thing that you have to start from scratch with. Which do you prefer doing?
Well, even the classic idea of sawing somebody in half, it was always sawing the lady in half, and I thought that was really unfair. Even before today's times, I thought it should happen to me, but I couldn't make it happen to me in a normal way. I didn't want to do it with a box. I wanted to do it out in the open, totally exposed, where you saw my body get split in half. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to make it a kind of an escape. So the sawing in half part was a surprise. So they'd think I was going to have to escape from the blade, the kind of the perils of Pauline kind of aspect of it. And when I didn't escape, then I'd be sawed through, and then you'd have such a much bigger effect. You wouldn't expect the sawing in half part. And then you'd have to put myself back together. So we made a reversal of time. So putting layers and layers of different ideas, reinventing that illusion totally, but taking the classic idea as inspiration.
When you at a very, I wouldn't say early in your career, but reach a point where you can do as many shows as you want a year. Right now you're doing about 500 shows in a year.
640.
640. That's incredible. Do you have obviously you are the master and the maestro of the show, but when you have a new idea or you want a new idea for the show, do you have a team of people that you get together with and you say, all right, let's throw some ideas, like basically like a TV show, let's throw some ideas up on the board and figure out how we're going to do this?
Like a TV show or NASA, or Elon Musk. So it's really science and technology and art all put together. We're working on something fantastic now, which you'll have to stand by and wait for. It's going to be really, I think, hopefully world-changing. It's an amazing idea, taking technology and art and blending them in a special way and affecting how we look at life. And what I do, like you said, I get a group of people who I work with for 20 years or more, and we sit in a room and we throw out ideas and how can you do this? What will that look like? We make models and mock-ups. Right now we're in the process of making a lot of foam core pieces and cameras moving down and just trying different things out. At the same time, also talking about messaging at the exact same time. How to use the words to describe it, what's going to register with people. So it's kind of a little Pixar in nature, Pixar will take an idea and keep killing it and building it, and, destroying it, and then and finally you end up with something really special after you've gone through many different steps.
I want to talk more about the messaging in just a second, but what's the furthest you've gotten along on an idea and then had to scrap it? Because you realize at a certain point, I don't think we're going to be able to make this one work.
It's happened, but luckily, so much work goes into that one idea that it gets put over here, and 10 years later we say, well, remember that thing? Maybe we can use some of those ideas that were good for this. So nothing's really a waste, which is really, really great. We're right now reviving a lot of things that we thought were totally useless. So, it's good to keep records of those ideas and those thoughts because they have value because you spend time on those things. And we do that all the time. And right now, a lot of things that I'm doing in my show are stuff that I thought was going to be wasted, but we kept in the back of our catalog of ideas.
How much do you still love the old tricks? Like there's a moment in this documentary, which we'll talk about in a second, where it's you sort of making the Statue of Liberty disappear in your hands, which is just sort of like it's a magician doing a thing that he's probably known how to do since he was 10 years old. How much do you still love being able to do those things?
Well, that moment, actually, I knew I was going to do the documentary. So me and my team, I've got Homer Lewag, Chris Kenner, all these people that have been with me for many, many years. We said, okay, making a small object disappear seems to be an easy thing, but we did it in that one camera shot, and doing it with a little statue is different than vanishing a coin or vanishing a deck of cards. So we kind of spent a couple days working out that little detail of that little moment there. So, and it's real. It's not camera tricks. There's no blue screen or whatever. And so it's fun taking something that looks, pretty simple and normal, and doing it with a different object, and it changes everything as far as the difficulty. It's pretty good.
When did you were what, like 10, 11 years old when you started doing magic?
8 years old.
8 years old? And what drew you to it?
I was a ventriloquist. I started by watching a guy named Paul Winchell, who was a big star here in Manhattan and across the world. He was a ventriloquist. You know him as the voice of Tigger on Winnie the Pooh. He was amazing and kind of a genius, I would say. He invented and patented the artificial heart. So he wasn't just a ventriloquist. He actually was a scientist and a brilliant creative guy, but he was a big star in television when I was a kid. And I said, oh, I love this. And my parents bought me a dummy, and I went to school, and I did shows in school with the dummy, and the kids applauded me and said, I want to do this as a job, getting that reaction from the audience. But I kind of sucked at it. I was really not very good at all. But I went looking for a better dummy, and when it came to Macy's here in New York, and the way you buy a dummy in Macy's is the magic counter at Macy's. And they had magic, and this guy did magic. I said, maybe this magic thing is my thing, and it became very easy to me. You know, I was inventing magic very quickly, and when I was 12, my inventions were in the big encyclopedia, Tarbell Encyclopedia of Magic. So I was really good at it. Again, sucked at everything else, but magic, for some reason, I was good at it. And
Can I ask, what were your parents thinking when you were getting into magic and ventriloquism? Were they immediately supportive and got it, or were they kind of like, cocked eyebrow, like, what's going on with our kid here?
I don't know. I think they really gave me support as a kid doing it, doing birthday party shows, made $5 for a birthday party, made balloon animals. They all looked like poodles, but I called them other animals. But they were supportive. But when I wanted to do it as a job, my mother said, it was really tough with me, and it was a good thing. Her apprehension for me doing this as a job really empowered me to really work hard and find a way to make it work, and to make it so I can feed the family. I've never had another job but magic. I never worked at a fast food place. Never had to. It's a very funny thing. I starved a lot, but I never had another job. Yeah.
What was it like early on when you were starving? I mean, a starving musician, I feel like we hear the story all the time. A starving painter, starving actor, starving movie director, but we never really hear the story of the starving magician. What are the sort of side hustles and things that you're doing before you get to that? What is the starving musician's breakthrough?
I did industrial shows. I was in Barrow Street. I lived in Barrow Street with my girlfriend at the time, and I knocked on a lot of doors. And one of the doors I knocked on was a company that did industrial shows, so they paid for my illusions for me. Before that, I did a musical comedy in Chicago. I sang, which I can't sing, and I did that.
You did the
Magic Man, it was called, because Doug Henning had this gigantic success here on Broadway, and they kind of copied that show, even though it was written before, in a show in Chicago called The Magic Man. And I got to design all my illusions. And it lasted a year, and I was 18 years old, and I was kind of a star in Chicago. And I thought, oh, God, my life is going to be perfect now. Everything's going to be easy for me. And of course, it doesn't work that way. I come back here to New York, and nobody gave a damn about me. So I knocked on doors, So after the success in Chicago, I had nothing. So I knocked on doors in New York, and I knocked on a guy's named Joe Cates. And Joe Cates, from Phoebe Cates and Kevin Kline's wife, and Phoebe Cates from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, terrific actress, and her father was Joe Cates, who gave me my big break. He knew that I had a point of view with my magic. My magic was always never about fooling people. It was always about telling stories in a way. I wouldn't just vanish a woman. I would vanish a girl in a shower scene and do the scene from Psycho. I would do a Keystone Cop number based on the, old Keystone Cop movies. I would do MGM musical, dancing with a girl cut in 3 pieces. It's doing as a date with a magician, like an MGM musical. So it all had kind of context. It was never, just doing magic for magic's sake.
You were an entertainer.
I don't know. I was trying to tell stories. I was trying to find my way, but it was a unique way of doing magic. And this Joe Cates saw this and went, I think I can do something. He put me on CBS, and then I was on CBS every year. But the period between The Magic Man and doing the CBS shows, I was doing industrial shows and doing shows for IBM and Pitney Bowes, and it would be me and Bruce Jenner, believe it or not. He would be speaking because he was an American hero, and in a way still is. He'd be speaking, and I'd be producing the executives out of boxes and so forth. And it all
corporate retreats kind of thing?
Yeah, corporate events, but gigantic, like $2 million productions. Henry Kissinger would speak, and there'd be this little David Kotkin kid would make executives appear and stuff, trying to inspire them with magic. But it paid for my thing before I had television, and it was an interesting time.
Who was the most famous executive that you made disappear or appear?
Gosh, every president of IBM and president of, it was like that. No, I think we had Michael Eisner at the time. I would do ABC Industrials, and this is when Bob Iger was kind of in the background in a way, But it was during that time. It was great, and I was constantly learning new things. I learned about lighting and staging and so forth from these very expensive industrial shows at the time.
Now, one of the things that you're here to talk about is your role with the Statue of Liberty, which is covered in this new documentary, Liberty, Mother of Exiles, a beautiful doc about the history of the Statue of Liberty and really what it means for this country. I want to throw to a clip of that documentary and then talk about your work within it. Can we see that?
Yeah. The Statue of Liberty is an object that's actually hollow. But on the outside, it's supposed to look very heavy and strong. That in itself is an illusion. It is magic. It is science and art making spectacle.
That's the trick that we were just talking about there.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Diane von Furstenberg is this amazing woman. Just a force of nature, magical, dreamer, and organizer, and a persuader of people to do great things. So we love her, and she's a lovely person. She's the executive producer of this, one of the producers and the star of this. I'm just a minor player at this, but she's the thread throughout this, and you see her journey learning about all the facts of the Statue of Liberty, and it's a great documentary. You enjoyed it? Yeah. And you learn. What did you learn? I learned some things. Even before I did the statue vanishing, not the small one, but the big one. I studied it. I went to see all about Bartholdi and Rabelais, all this. I did all that stuff, but I learned stuff in this that I didn't know. I didn't know that Eiffel. It's a footnote in Eiffel's life. Eiffel designed all the structure inside the statue. Afterwards, he did the Eiffel Tower. But it's only a little mention that he didn't really care that much about his contribution, even though during Hurricane Sandy, it stayed up, because of the Eiffel Tower guy. It's pretty amazing. So he's kind of another genius. So the artist on the outside and the engineer on the inside combined, and that's my life. My life is engineering and art put together. That's what that is. Amazing, and it gets proved to be an amazing thing.
I had known it was a gift to the United States, and I'm sure this is, everybody knows this who knows anything about the Statue of Liberty. I had no idea that it was a gift due to the end of the Civil War and the end of slavery, and it was basically a French abolitionist who.
That's new, right?
I didn't know that. I thought that was really inspiring. Yeah. No, so in 1980, what was it, 82, 83 that you did this?
I think 1894. I think.
You made the Statue of Liberty disappear, and you couldn't really get anybody, Parks Department or anybody, to really help you. You had to go straight to the top. You went to Nancy and Ronald Reagan to talk to them about this.
Mostly Ronald.
What did that conversation go like?
Well, the park department did what they should really do if somebody's crazy enough to want to
no.
do this. They say no. That's they're smart. They have to protect this iconic thing. I was on TV and I was pretty famous at that moment, and but I think. They said no, and I said, but I really want to do this for a noble cause. I think we take this liberty thing for granted. Now, even today, we're realizing how important this idea is. So they got no, you can't do it. And then finally, I did many shows at Ford's Theater for many presidents, and the Reagans were very nice to me. And I said, please, can you help me with this? And he said, okay, go ahead and do it. I'll help you do it. And I said, okay, that's nice of you. And so I got all the cooperation. I lived there. I lived inside the base for a month. I slept inside there, not in the houses, but inside there on cots and so forth. It was great, because I didn't want to take the ferry ride back and forth. But it was just an amazing.
Yeah, who gets to do that? I mean, that's such an amazing experience.
Crawling up into the torch at night, and I imagine standing just like looking at that, incredible. And no one got permission to be in the torch, except the workers and Frank Sinatra. Me and Frank Sinatra. He got to sing New York, New York up on the torch for a special, and they gave me permission to be in the torch. So pretty good.
And where did you, I feel like at this point, or maybe I'm wrong, is when you really start thinking about messaging and what your magic, the stories your magic can tell, and how important those stories can be. Is that true, or did it start before that as well?
No, I was always doing story stuff.
Always doing
show.
Story stuff,
but one special, I did all these stories which I really cared about, and I made a plane disappear at the end. No story, I made a plane, and the people went crazy for this plane disappearing. And I said, you like that? You like the big thing disappearing? What about all these things I really cared about?
No, they're like, we're Americans. We like the big thing. Make the big thing happen.
It was a real, revelation to me. The idea of the big idea, the simple idea, really communicated. And, I had to be reminded of that, believe it or not. And I said, what am I going to do to follow that up? And when the statue idea came along, I said, well, this can have meaning. I can really do something with this. So I went to Frank Capra. I found Frank Capra in the winter of his years. And I said, Mr. Capra, for those of you kids out there, It's a Wonderful Life, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, all the stuff, all the movies, these classic movies. He had a movie studio called Liberty Films, and one of the great directors of all time. And I sat with Frank Capra and I said, will you help me write the dialogue for this thing? Will you help me write my speech? When it disappears, I want to talk about how we take freedom for granted. Would you write this? And Frank Capra said to me, okay, I'll help you, but you're going to try to do it and you're going to fail. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're going to go, you're going to do the whole special, you're going to try to do it, and the statue's not going to disappear. And I said, well, Mr. Capra, I don't think CBS will like this idea. I think you have to do it.
Al Capone's vault or something.
Yeah. Yes, it would be like a thing you can't say. No, freedom, liberty, you cannot make liberty disappear. So 4 hours later, I convinced him finally after that. And I saw this amazing fighter guy. He was a short,
Yeah.
you know.
How old was he at this time? 80s, like 7.
Like 80s.
And because he was always notoriously, cantankerous fighter.
And you saw, at the time, his executive producer of his thing was Harry Cohen.
Oh,
the
yeah.
studio. So who was a tough, legendary tough guy. And so I got to see Frank Capra, how he fought against Harry Cohen. I got to experience that, which is an amazing experience to watch this guy in his 80s really deal with me like that, as if I was the Harry Cohen in that thing. I was the bad guy fighting with him. But finally, he said yes. And we got into kind of collaborate. And that's my speech that I do in the statue. To make it appear, I talk about how we take freedom for granted, how important our freedom is, and how what it meant to my mother and me, and she was a kid, all that.
I got to ask, as a deep Frank Capra fan, when you're getting yelled at by Frank Capra, is it hard to not just smile and be delighted by the fact that Frank Capra is yelling at you?
It's just, I wasn't smiling, but inside I was going, this is a cool moment in my life. It's like it's a freedom. I'm going back in time and experiencing a guy who was passionate, and it reminded me that all great artists are really passionate about stuff, people who I admire. And I saw this guy's passion, and it reminded me to be passionate too. Whenever you get a little bit complacent, which isn't often, to be passionate, really care, have the courage of your convictions about things.
Another ceremony that you recently did, and I think it ties into this one a little bit, which is that instead of making something disappear, you made something appear, right? At a ceremony for people getting new citizenship, new citizens. Can you talk about this?
Sure. This Flag Day, this past Flag Day, we went to the Smithsonian. I've got a wonderful relationship with the amazing, smart, innovative people at the Smithsonian, the Star-Spangled Banner is this giant, you've heard of the stars. It's not just a song, it's an actual flag. It's what Francis Scott Key saw waving during the, when the bombs bursting in air and all that stuff that we sing about. That flag exists in the Smithsonian. It's a giant, it's literally as big as this room, the flag. It's missing a star. It's missing pieces of it because it was given as souvenirs, little pieces were given away, but the star itself, one of the stars, 15 stars, is missing. When I heard about that, I said, okay, this is my kind of world. I'm going to make that star reappear. That's what I'm going to do. So I did an illusion, which is pretty good, where I make that star reappear for the 15th missing star, which kind of is symbolic to the fact that those stars represent states of the Union. There were 15 states at the time. The strength that we get from being united, that whole idea. And it was in the same day that we naturalized 15 citizens, which was awesome. So I'm making the star appear into this Star-Spangled Banner and naturalizing 15 citizens on that same day. So that was a great honor for me, and it was a lot of fun.
A couple cheap questions, excuse me. What has been the hardest trick you've ever done?
Always the newest one. Always the newest one, The Statue of Liberty was hard. I fly in my show. I fly pretty good in my show. That was hard. I don't do it anymore, but I did for 20 years. I was flying.
Why don't you do it anymore?
You have to do new. You have to have. It's an old hit. That's the new stuff I'm working on now. I have a thing in my show with a spaceship that's literally the size of this room, that appears magically. Spoiler alert. I've got an alien animatronic alien character. That's new for me because when I was a kid, it goes back to when I was a kid, I watched the Ed Sullivan Show. The Ed Sullivan Show, they had a puppet called Topo Gigio. It was a little character, Italian mouse. And as a kid, I went, wow, I wish I had a little friend like that could talk to me. So now I have an alien friend that talks to me that kind of reunites me with my father. My father passed away a few years ago, so I make that. And a lot of people relate to the fact that, you know, you have things missing in your life. So this character kind of gets me back with him with a lot of amazing magic, all invented, all brand new technology and so forth. And I've got dinosaurs in the show and spaceships. So the language is totally new. And that keeps it fresh for me. You know, it's not reinventing old magic. It's really brand new stuff.
When did you find that you could explore things in your personal life and things that had personal meaning to you within these shows? Because I think very rarely does anyone think of a magic show or a David Copperfield show, if they haven't been to it, as something that is more than the magic. But it sounds to me like a couple years ago your father passed away, and one of the ways that you maybe dealt with it was finding a way to incorporate it in the show.
Yeah, well, it's jealousy of music.
Right.
You know, everybody, you know, Taylor Swift breaks up with somebody, it's a song. You know, Frank Sinatra maybe didn't write the song, but he'll sing it, you know, the lines in his face. You'll see all of the stuff that you've learned about his life, you know, and the cigarette and the whiskey. You know, you'll see that. It was jealousy of that, you know, of movies that, you know, moved you and were able to express thoughts, or poets. I was good at magic. I wasn't a poet. I wasn't, you know, a musician, you know, but I was good at magic. I said, how am I going to use this thing I'm good at to do what they do? Because that's the stuff that moved me. I'm moved by that music and that movie and so forth. How do I do that? So it was the combination of that, fight for that, that infused everything I did. And, you know, people don't think of that when they think of me. They think of, you know, airplanes and statues disappearing and, you know, flying and all that. They think of that. But I think I've lasted, you know. Lasting is the best illusion that I have, you know. I've lasted because there is that truth at the core of it, you know. And it's, where does it come from? The answer to your question is, I was jealous of and envious of every single artist that has been in this seat, you know. I've watched some of these shows to research you, and, you know, and found that, you know, these people are doing, you know, the reason they're valuable is because there's something true, you know. How does a person that is doing things that are not real, illusions, be true? The subject matter has to be based on something that we care about.
Do you ever feel misunderstood as an artist? You have, you know, an incredible amount of success. As you said, the greatest illusion that you've done is lasting. You've done a lot more than last. But do you ever feel sometimes slightly misunderstood as an artist in the way that just a few minutes ago you said people liked the plane disappearing, or, you know, the train disappearing, but yet you are engaging in your art on a very personal level?
Yeah, I mean, I think every artist, if you ask that question to, would say, you know, they want a little bit more. They want a little bit more respect. They want that person to like them, or, you know what, you know, for me, every show I do, there's a lady, you know, there's a lady in the front row. People are going crazy everywhere. There's a lady going. I only care about one person, that lady, you know, at that point. So like it's
We only read the bad reviews.
We only, and that we take that to sleep with, to bed with us, you know, the bad reviews. And because there's an effort to make it better. So I'm not there where I'm so proud of, you know, all the stuff I've done. It's that one lady in the front row that, you know, I didn't get, you know.
Well, if you were so proud of, in that way, of everything you've done, you wouldn't keep going. You wouldn't do 600 and something shows a year. You're clearly still doing it because you love doing it.
Well, there's something to learn, you know. There's something to I learn every night. I learn from the audience every night. And I tweak and change things in the show, and, you know, I make mistakes and I find things, and, you know, I have different, you know, I've toured the world 10 times. I've done 10 world tours. Pretty amazing, you know, and playing arenas everywhere. So my audience in the MGM Hotel, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Good plug, good time.
At the MGM, we have shows, and some shows it's all Chinese people. Some shows all people from Brazil, all people, you know, and they hear me speak in Chinese, reading it off the stage, you know, phonetically. They expect me to speak Chinese. In Las Vegas, I don't, you know, but it's wonderful to see all these different people that I've, you know, 10 times around the world have seen.
What's the wildest place around the world that you've performed magic, that you just thought to yourself, I can't believe I'm performing my show for these people here?
You know, I've done shows for royalty. You know, I was in England when Prince Harry and William came with Princess Di to the show, and I'll be on stage, and I was flying at the time, and that show, it went horribly wrong, and I was frozen. This is my big illusion, this flying thing at the time, and began to think I'm frozen in space. I can't move, and I've got, Prince William and Harry in the audience, and Princess Di in the audience, and I can't. I'm stuck in the air, and in the microphone they could hear me backstage. The audience couldn't hear me. I say, close the curtain. The curtain closes on me, and they bring out ladders to unlevitate me behind the thing. And I say, turn my mic on. My mic is, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm behind the curtain. Ladies and gentlemen, give us 5 minutes. I want you to really see this properly. And 5 minutes they wait. The audience patiently waits. And we fix what has to be fixed, and I do this 15-minute flying sequence. I fly with a lady in my arms. I fly with a falcon in my hands. I fly in a box. Hoops pass around me. It's a really kind of a very good thing. And I finish the illusion. And it turns out fine after this wait. But in that show, I had royalty in the audience, and on stage, I really fucked up.
Did you speak to the royalty afterwards?
I did.
Are you the type of person upon speaking to the royalty where you're like, I'm so sorry about what happened? Or did you try to play it off like nothing had happened?
I learned to ignore it.
Right, of course.
I just literally make believe it didn't happen, but they were very, very nice about it, and yeah.
Well, because no decent person is going to go, what happened? Because if the rest of the show went well, why would you bring up this one moment?
They were pretty decent. Yeah.
We have a question coming in from Twitter. It's, hey, David, can you talk a little bit about the work you're doing in the Bahamas following Hurricane Dorian?
It's amazing what happened there. I have a bunch of islands there called the Islands of Copperfield Bay and Musha Key, which is this beautiful resort that I have there. And we were spared. We were very, very lucky. Above us, a lot of our people that were our employees' families got demolished. Totally flattened. So Jose Andres has an amazing organization. We went and he's very godly, this guy, and I had the honor of chopping salad with him in the kitchen and trying to on my birthday I went there and did that, a little small thing compared to everything else, with my team. My team is there getting food to the different shelters and so forth, and some of the other areas where we were flying things back and forth to help out with the effort. And also we brought in a lot of people who lost everything as employees to my resort. So, and that's the best thing, because that's not just a Band-Aid. That's something that hopefully will change their lives. And they're very, very wonderful people, and it's a horrible devastation that took place in all the northern islands. We got spared. I don't know. We're very lucky. So we're doing our best. Also, All Hands, All Hearts is another organization. Petra Nemkova, her organization that she began, is doing amazing things there. So we're doing what we can, as much as we can to help out there.
We have time for a few questions from the audience. Who is right here? Hey.
Hi. If you could have any supernatural power, which one would it be and why?
Living forever. Yeah, getting more time, because then you could become a better person and do better things for people. I think, I think I can prototype supernatural powers in my career. So I know what it feels like to fly. I know what it feels like to disappear. I know what it feels like to restore things from badness. And I kind of, as a performer, you kind of have to really believe it. For you to believe it at home, you have to have the artist really believe what they're doing. So I think, having more time would be a great thing. No.
A couple more questions.
Hi. I've been lucky enough to work with magicians as consultants on scripted TV drama series, and my favorite thing is the psychology behind the deception and the misdirection. I think the normal people don't realize the psychology that goes into it. Do you have any psychological tricks that you can share with us that are your favorites?
You know, I think you have an audience, you have to guide them in certain directions. You know, they talk about, well, it's misdirection. You look over here and something's over here. You're correct. It is really understanding how people's minds work, understanding what the expectation is of people, and knowing that, you can take Mother Nature and turn it sideways. There's no individual thing that I can think of, but I think that just the knowledge of how we operate, how our brains operate, informs what I do, you know, and how to do that. So I think it becomes innate after a while, you know.
You know, you were. This is in your Wikipedia. You were
Read everything.
You were a fairly shy kid growing up, right?
Still am.
Do you think, in some ways, magic was a means for which you to understand the psychology of other people, to, in some ways, connect not just by entertaining them, but by understanding how they worked?
Yeah, I mean, I slowly. I'm still shy. I'm still trying to figure it out, and that's what keeps me going. You know, part of it. I saw a lot of people in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, people that like lost their careers because they were too confident about stuff. They lost everything. They were too happy with the work they did. And I think in my brain, I don't want that to happen to me. I better be insecure my whole life. You know, I better literally forced insecurity to make sure that I was always questioning what I did. And I think it definitely, magic helped me have something to talk about, have something to share. The whole psychological thing, understanding people, came gradually, just understanding by trial and error what works and what didn't work with my thing. And then you start to learn, and I continue to learn, and isn't that great to learn things every day? It's fantastic.
I just know that I can be quite shy sometimes, and it can be alienating in the sense that you get sometimes when you're feeling very alienated due to your shyness. Is like, well, how are they doing this? How is everybody just going about their lives and connecting and being social and just enjoying each other's presence so easily?
I think I'm amazed by people that can walk into a room and go, "Here I am," and all that, because totally
Without magic?
without a single thing, you know, that they're doing or something to talk about. There's people that have ability, and I still go out and go, that's amazing. You know, I'm amazed by that. You know, I'm jealous of it. But it makes me work harder at, you know, figuring out the next thing that I should do. So it actually creates something, some hopefully art from that, you know.
One more question.
After 11 Guinness World Records, any other big dreams of new shows, ideas that you don't even have technology for yet?
We're working on stuff right now, believe it or not. It's really something really that would affect how we think about life and living in the world, and magic that would actually affect us. A huge idea. I'm going to see if I can do it or not. New technology, never been done, and I love it. You know, I can't talk about it, but I love it. And I look at all the Elon Musks of the world who are really accomplishing new things and pushing us to be, you know, fuel efficient and no fuel, or, you know, to land a rocket back on Earth after being off. It's like, oh my God, that's great. And inspired by that. What can I do with my work that comes close to that level? You know, what can I do to really inspire people? And, you know, I've done it a few times before and it's worked pretty good. I'm thrilled that I have a new thought, and new thoughts are good.
David, it's been an absolute honor to talk to you. Thank you so much for being here. People can see your show at the MGM, right? In Vegas. How many shows do you?
Only 15 shows a week. You know, we do 7 days a week, 2 shows a day and 3 on Saturday at the MGM, and it's great, and you'll see stuff you've never seen before. It's never been on TV, which is really awesome. And I take 10 weeks off a year. We're going and creating new things, and I'm very happy.
In your 10 weeks off, are you basically working on the show and coming up with new ideas? What do you do in your downtime? What is David Copperfield Netflix?
I come on the Build Show.
Oh, that is an honor, sir. Thank you. And this wonderful documentary, Liberty, Mother of Exiles, premieres Thursday, October 17th at 9 p.m. on HBO.
You'll love it.
They did such an amazing job.
Beautiful, and the great team, great directors, fantastic group.
David Copperfield, everybody. Let's hear it.